In today's video, I'm about to share with you 5 different tactics that you simply can utilize to grow your credit score as fast as possible. Now the real issue with credit scores is that they typically take a really long time to build up. But during this video, I'm going to share with you a couple of different tactics that you simply could use to actually grow that a lot faster. If you need to boost it within the next 1, 2, or 3 months, I feel this video might help you out. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Alright, so let's start this with the most important one, which will really boost your score very quickly. I am talking 30 days, 60 days, maybe 90 days, and you'll boost your score very quickly. This is often great for people that don't have any credit history or possibly bad credit history. So anything really below 550 isn't necessarily too good for a credit score. Now it's okay if you've got a bad credit score, you'll build it up over time. And that is the key here. So the best way to do that during a very short period of time, and this usually works, I'm going to share with you a couple of tips here that you are going to need to watch out for so that you'll kind of weave through this road and ensure that you get to the right place you would like to be. So one of the most effective ways to do this is by becoming an authorized user under somebody else's account. By doing this and becoming an authorized user, you'll be able to piggyback off of somebody else's credit score. So let me explain this to you. You can actually become an authorized user under somebody else's account. So this might be your parents, might be your sister, your brother, maybe even your kid if they have an excellent credit score with a long credit history, or a friend. And if they have good credit, I would say anywhere from 720 or above, or even 760 and above, what you can do is they can actually add you as an authorized user. Now what's gonna happen is you are going to get a credit card with your name on it, but it's under their account. So they're actually legally liable to pay off your bills in a sense. And you personally as the authorized user aren't liable for this. Now one of the most important questions that people have though is they say, wait a second, if I was the person who is letting somebody become an authorized user under me, am I going to be affected by their poor credit history? And the truth is no, you are not going to be. So if say, your parents were adding you as an authorized user, your parents' credit isn't going to be affected by you being on there as an authorized user. Just keep that in mind and share that with them. If you're trying to convince somebody to add you to their credit card as an authorized user, they want to be careful with co-signing. This is often another method that people use. Co-signing, it can kind of create some problems because what you have to do eventually is close that account, which can hit your credit score a little bit. We will talk more about co-signing and the negatives of that in the future. It isn't always bad. But usually, I think becoming an authorized user might be a far better bet for a lot of people. So here's the part where you really need to pay attention. What can usually happen, and what does typically happen, is that you as the authorized user, well, you will get reported to the major credit bureaus. These are the companies who score credit scores. You'll actually get reported separately from the person who added you as an authorized user. So suddenly, you piggyback off of the person who signed up for you. So if they have a credit score of 750 and you're an authorized user under them, there is a good chance, assuming that they report you separately, which usually does happen, that your score will go up tremendously. I'm talking 60 points, maybe even 80 points, sometimes even more. Sometimes there are stories of individuals jumping even 100 and 120 points in literally just 30 days from this happening. So you'll piggyback off of this, but this is often where you actually do need to pay attention here, because this is not always the case. See, after the economic recession of 2007 and 2008, FICO kind of changed the way that they actually score credit scores and the way they actually look at them. This was sort of a result of the subprime mortgage crisis. And now, they actually weigh the authorized user piggybacking method a bit less. So what can happen here, simply because your score shoots up, because you piggyback off of this person's credit score? What can happen though, is that let's say your score goes from 550 to 650 or something, right? So your score goes from pretty bad to pretty decent. So say, shoots up to 650 and you apply for a brand new credit card or you apply for a mortgage or a car loan. Well, what can happen with some of the banks? They can look deeper into it and say, wait a second, you're just an authorized user, you never had a credit card, you actually paid off yourself. And they can look deeper into it. And they can actually reject you for a few of these loans. So it isn't always the most effective method, but it is a good way to boost it initially. And sometimes they do use old methods for pulling credit and they are not really looking too deep into it. They're just kind of looking at the number. But like I said, ever since the 2007 and 2008 recession, they have been getting a bit smarter with that. But it's still an excellent way to boost it very quickly. Another method you could use, while you're doing this authorized user piggyback method, you can also open up a secured line of credit separately to help boost it a bit more. So that's just a critical tip that many people don't even know really exists. If you've got really poor credit or you don't have any credit, definitely check out that one. It's definitely a great way to boost your credit as fast as possible. Now, there are 4 other strategies that you really should be aware of if you're trying to grow your credit score as fast as possible. And the next one is another thing that tons of people do not realize you can do. And this is actually writing to the credit bureaus. I'm talking about a physical letter, writing it to the 3 major credit bureaus and disputing certain things on your old credit report. So just to give you an example of this, there's the story of a guy who filed for divorce together with his wife, and it had been decided by the courts that she legally owed him a certain amount of money for some payments that were under his name. And she didn't pay him, so he couldn't pay off the loans. So he defaulted on the loans. And then he got screwed over, and his credit score went down tremendously. Well, he actually disputed this, he got it removed by writing to the credit bureaus. So there are different things within there. Sometimes, there are some smaller things within there like missed payments that you just might miss, but they happened 3 years ago. You can actually write letters and dispute this. You can literally Google this. There are all types of forms and different outlines that you could use. The kind of just fill in the blank sort of things that you could use to send these letters to the credit bureaus. And as soon as this happens, as soon as you get some of these old things that are dragging down your credit score, suddenly, your credit score can really increase very, very quickly. I'm talking about roughly in under 30 days, it can increase by a lot. Now another way to keep your credit score growing in the short run is to avoid hard pulls or hits on your credit. And this is often critical, say that 3 months from now or 2 months from now, you're considering getting a new car and you would like to get a $20,000 loan for your new car, say it's 60 days now or 90 days from now, well, you're going to want to plan this out a few months before and not get any hard pulls on your credit. So what this will mean is don't try and open up more credit cards 60 days before trying to get a car loan, or don't try to get a car loan right before you try to get a home mortgage loan. So those are just a few examples there of how they might negatively affect your credit, because whenever somebody is doing a pull on your credit, whenever that somebody is checking your credit in a hard pull, not a soft pull, there is a difference there. But with a hard pull on your credit, it's actually going to decrease your credit score, sometimes, maybe 10, 15, 20 points or more for a hard pull on your credit. So in the short run, keep that in mind, try to avoid those hard pulls. In the long run, it doesn't really matter so much. If you're considering getting a house next year, it doesn't really matter. If you open up a credit card now, it would dip your score by 10 or 20 points, but not too much. So I would not worry about it in the long run. Okay, now, 2 more here, really incredibly important. If you're trying to get that 800 or more credit score, or let's say 850, only a couple of million people now have an 850 credit score, but it's just so difficult to actually get that. There are 2 really important keys that you just got to understand here, and this is keeping your credit usage incredibly low. I'm talking anywhere from 1 to maybe 10%. Once you get up higher than 10%, that's when you're gonna start to get into the territory where these credit card companies are actually going to find you a little bit riskier. And so your score is going to decrease slightly. So what you must do is to keep your credit utilization at around 8%, maybe 4 or 5% is good as well. And what this means is that if you have, let's say, a credit limit of $10,000, well, you're probably gonna want to spend maybe $800 or less per month out of your $10,000 limit per month just to maintain that utilization really low. Once you get up to 30 or 40% or more, that's when you're going to see your credit score beginning to slip a bit. So keep it very low, this makes up a very large portion of your FICO score. Just keep that in mind. Now the last one that I would like to share with you is also very important. And this is simply just paying off your minimum payment monthly. Sometimes we'll see people that will rack up $2,000 in credit card debt for a specific month. Then they'll say, I don't have $2,000, I can't pay it off. So they'll just ignore it and just say, you know what, I'll pay it off next month, and they won't pay the minimum payment. And as soon as you don't pay the minimum payment, it counts as a default and your credit score is going to get hit really hard for not paying off that minimum payment. So if you are going to carry a balance, which I would not recommend doing anyway, because you're paying 20-25% in interest sometimes on those balances on your credit, well, if you are going to do that, at least pay off the minimum payment monthly. It's just so incredibly important to do that. It's a foolish mistake not to, and it's going to hurt you for quite a few years to come if you only miss that one payment. So what you can do is set up auto payments directly from your checking account to your credit cards so that you will never forget about it. And that will save you a lot of worries instead of trying to time it perfectly and pay off your credit card right before it's due. So those are 5 different tactics that you could utilize to increase your credit score as fast as possible. I feel the biggest problem people have is they want to increase it in the next week or two, and it's not that easy to do that. I think the first 2 methods that I share with you are very important, and those are probably the most effective ways to increase it in the short run. But actually, it's going to take a long time to build credit. It really is. And that's it for today. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on the notifications bell for more videos like this one. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.